Revealing common sense discussion for the common sense citizen. Strap yourself in, put your trays in the upright position, remove dentures and loose jewelry, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and come along for the ride. It is time for the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN 830, and our affiliates and streaming on the TuneIn app. It's Joe time, baby.
All right. Good morning, folks, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, December 18th. This will be the actual last show I do of the Joe Mangiacotti Show before Christmas. Mike Wade will be sitting in tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock for me, so he'll come in early, and he'll do his show as well, but he will sit in the big chair tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. I will actually be back Thursday for Political Thursday. I'll be sitting in for Jerry Doherty and doing that on Thursday, but this actually, Russ, I totally forgot. Monday, I have to remember Mondays now. I'll be Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock. So this isn't actually the last Joe Mangiacotti Show for before Christmas. So strike all that. And,
you want to start over, Joe?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Good morning,
and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. You can find us online at tjmshows.com, and, of course, follow us on all of our social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show. You can join the conversation in the next 2 hours at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. And, of course, you can text us on our text line. Text like you would anybody else. The number is, and you should probably save this in your phone, at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. You can also email text Joe on the radio at gmail.com. It appears on the same screen in real time. If you want to reach the show off air, you can do that with our show email, joemshow@gmail.com. Again, a lot of people, Russ, they use that text Joe on the radio. I don't see that unless I'm on the air, folks. So if you want to reach the show, use the show email, joemshow@gmail.com, or call the office. That's fine at 508-603-9778. But to join the conversation this morning, you need to dial 508-871-7000. And again, Mike will be in tomorrow morning for us. So for me, so he'll be sitting in for the entire morning, and then Peter Blute picks it up at 9 o'clock. So you have that great Sunday morning block of common sense talk for the common sense citizen. At least that's how I look at it. All right, again, 508-871-7000. We are live streaming on our TuneIn app, of course, so you can take us anywhere. Just punch in WCRN. You can tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that. No questions asked. We also, by the way, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, we have a WRCN app. Yeah, an actual app you can download from the Google Play Store and so forth, and it is just for the station. So I don't know if you know that. So just punch in WCRN in Google Play, and you'll find our app, download it, and touch of a button, no matter where you are, you have whatever's going out on the terrestrial radio station, you'll have on your device. We're live streaming the show, too, on social media platforms. So my YouTube channel at the Joe Mangiacotti Show, Facebook and Twitter at Joe Mangi Show, and even my LinkedIn page and Twitch TV. It's all happening. All right. Hey, Russ, good morning again for officially.
Good morning. I had two calls right off the bat.
That's fine. So Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
You
to
came
you,
in
sir.
festival this morning with the Santa hat and all.
Oh, yeah. I thought that seeing that it is a week before Christmas, and I'm sure most likely WCRN will be playing Christmas music next Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean,
obviously, none of us will be sitting in the chair next weekend. We'll do the Christmas music, and I don't know if that starts Friday morning or Thursday night. Not quite sure of it, but yeah, you'll have all the festival music going on. So this is actually the last time we'll see each other before the holiday.
It'll be just a question on New Year's, but we're not going to go there.
About that. Let's get
we're not going to go there. We're going to get through Christmas.
And I thought about it after I got here. I should have. My fedora is the trademark, but I should have worn my red Christmas fedora this morning. But my bad on that. Quick question.
Yeah.
Do you have your tree up? Short answer.
We do have a tree, but the thing is, we have two cats who are very.
Point is, you have the tree up. When do you put it up?
When do we put it up?
Yeah.
Normally when we do, it's the day after
Okay,
Thanksgiving.
all right.
Black
See, a
Friday.
lot of people do that. Now,
Black
when
Friday.
does Christmas start?
When does Christmas start?
Yeah. Well, we have 12 days of Christmas, right?
Probably what, Christmas Day or the day after Christmas? That's I
Well, actually, this week's Out with Joe has some Christmas factoids for us to share. But see, Christmas starts on the 25th, Jesus' birthday, although most historians believe Jesus was born in the spring. But anyway, 12 days of Christmas goes from the 25th to January 6th. And that's the 12 days of Christmas. And that's called the Epiphany, right? January 6th is what they call Little Christmas. And why do we have 12 days of Christmas?
Wow, that is a good. I didn't know you were going to give me a quiz.
I did.
This
All right.
morning,
I'll
Joe.
give you a quiz. Well, it's the 12 days that it took the three wise men to travel to baby Jesus, right? They weren't traveling until he was born.
Right.
Once the news was out that he was born, they began their journey, and it took 12 days to reach him. So the first is his birthday, January 6th, Little Christmas. The Epiphany is the 6th when they arrive with their gifts, or at least that's the story we go by. So that's the 12 days of Christmas. So when we were kids, my mother wouldn't let us put the tree up till Christmas Eve because
that's different.
Because that Christmas hadn't started yet, and we would keep it. A lot of people, you'll see it by New Year's, right? The tree's out on the curb or what have you. So I guess that's a survey question for this morning. When do you put your tree up?
My friend in New York, who I keep in contact with periodically, what his family used to do was put their Christmas tree up on Thanksgiving, and then the day after Christmas, take it down.
Meaning the 26th, not
Yes.
the 7th of
The 26th. The
Yeah.
26th of
A lot of
December was
people
when
do
his
it.
family would take their tree down, but when they put their tree up, it was always on Thanksgiving, which I
that's
kind of
wrong.
thought was a little different.
Well, you can do whatever you want, I suppose, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, 508-871-7000, folks, to join the conversation. A lot of things going on, a lot of things to talk about. One of the things I want to point out here is, the Salvation Army, if you didn't catch this story, folks, they've gone woke, right? And it seems everything that goes woke goes broke. So they have this, they're having a real difficult time, right? And you know what I'm talking about, the Santas with the kettles out in front of the stores and so forth. And they do good work. Salvation Army does good work. I personally have friends and know people who have gotten sober and have stayed sober and clean because of the Salvation Army. So they've done good work, and they do good work. But earlier in the year, they decided to put up, and they went this whole CRT thing, right? And they put up a document on their website called Let's Talk About Race. Now, after criticism over the racially charged language, that was basically instructing white people and Christians to evaluate racist attitudes and practices. Right. So it says elements of the recently issued Let's Talk About Racism guide led some to believe we think we should apologize for the color of their skin, or that the Salvation Army may have abandoned its biblical beliefs for another philosophy or ideology. So the Army posted on its website that it was never our intention. So the guide has been removed for appropriate review. Now, this is the thing that always kills me with these post-woke mess-up apologies. They take it down. Now we're going to review it. Here's some great advice. Review it before you post it. Take a moment and take a beat. Read the room before you do something like this. Now, Let's Talk About Racism was recreated by the Salvation Army International Social Justice Commission, and it was meant to provide internal dialogue on the issue of racism among members of the Salvation Army. All right. Well, they say that, many Salvationists have acted firmly and courageously against racism. The Salvation Army acknowledges with regret that Salvationists, I guess that's how they refer to themselves or us, Salvationists have sometimes shared in the sins of racism and conform to economic, organizational, and social pressures that perpetuate racism. So, what does that translate to? Empty buckets, empty kettles. People are just walking by Santa and his bells, Russ. They're just going by, They've decided that they're not going to buy into the whole you must feel guilty and punish yourself for accidentally being born white. So that's happening with the Salvation Army. What say you? 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. It's 508-871-7000. Let's go right to the phones. Mark has been waiting patiently. Good morning, Mark. Merry Christmas, and you look marvelous.
Merry Christmas to you and all of your listeners. I hear that the St. Vincent strike has suddenly come to an end.
Yeah. Do you know what the what was the answer to their problem? What did they settle on?
I don't know what they settled on. I do know this is that the powers that be know what's coming, and they want that hospital at full capacity.
Yeah.
Before what's coming hits us, which is Omicron. It was only. Remember, it was only like, I don't know if it was 2 weeks ago. If it was that we were talking about the Omicron breaking out on the southern tip of the African continent. And then the United States government supposedly shut down all flights from 7 or 8 countries in southern Africa. Now you turn on the TV, half of the damn states in this country are infected with, guess what, Omicron. It moves pretty quick, don't it?
Well, it is very, very easy to spread. They're saying about 70 times easier to spread than the normal variant or the normal.
You know how far southern Africa is from here? Try taking a flight there, and you'll realize how far away it is. How could it spread that bleeping fast?
Well, it's funny you should say that. I was just looking at the distance of South Africa and even airfares there recently. But the point is, airplanes really, negates that issue, Mark, right? Because the problem is people were traveling all over the country before we even realized, or they realized, that there was a variant called, or what they named, Omicron. So the point is, it had already spread before anybody even knew it was existing.
All right, so they dropped the ball again. Now, the real problem with this, from what I'm hearing about Omicron, is that it mostly triggers upper respiratory.
It does, right.
Complications.
Opposed to the lungs.
Opposed to the Delta variant, which can trigger pneumonia. In other words, you slowly asphyxiate on the fluids that have accumulated in your lungs. In other words, it mimics pneumonia, viral pneumonia. Whereas Omicron, the problem is between the two is that if you get an upper respiratory infection that is triggered by the new variant, where are you going to go? You're going to automatically figure you got the Delta and you're going to go to the hospital. So you're going to have a double whammy. You're going to have the Omicron and you're going to have the regular Delta variant. Both of them are going to go to the ER. Both of them are going to want medical assistance. So you're going to have a double whammy. And the powers that be know that, and that's why the strike was ended, because they know what's coming down the road in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. They're going to be inundated with patients who have the new form, Omicron, and they're going to think they have the Delta, but nevertheless, they're going to have to treat them. So the patient load is going to go up astronomically. They know that, and that's why they ended the strike, in my humble opinion.
All right, awesome. All right, good points. Thank you very much for the call. Yeah, that could be the case there. A couple things going. I just want to go back to the Omicron. Yes, Mark was absolutely right that this, according to what I'm reading in all the articles, folks, here, is that it's up in the nose. It's higher in your whole body and system. So it's in the nose, which means that we're literally blowing it out. When we breathe, when we sneeze, it's actually getting out there, and that's one of the reasons it's much more contagious. Whereas the Delta variant and the original is the lower respiratory system in our lungs and so forth, and that is where the problem is. So we have that distinction. It's much more spreadable, but it's also a lot weaker, which is why this is actually being called the corona cold. It's going to mimic the symptoms and the feelings of just having a cold, and a lot of people are going to take it as that. Of course, because of the panic porn, many people are very nervous at any sniffle, sneeze, or whatever happens. So yeah, according to Dr. Macri, right, he's the Fox News guy, this variant is just less severe, and it's not in the lower level, it's in the higher, it's in the nose, it's in the sinuses in your head, and that's why it's happening. He says, masks won't change the arc of the Omicron at all. And now we see the airlines speaking out and saying this is ridiculous. I mean, the people who want to get rid of the masks the most on flights are the flight attendants. It's causing a great deal of stress, and problems on flights are coming from the whole mask issue, and they're being forced because they're getting all this bailout money, folks. So now it's not the customer's always right. It's the government's right, because that's Uncle Daddy. That's where all the money's coming from, folks. Now we have Dr. Fauci still out there, right? And he says we're never going to get out of this breakout if we have 50 million people, for reasons that he just don't understand, refuse to get vaccinated. So I don't know what he's doing. Is he holding out for more shutdowns? I mean, this is the guy that's telling you that you have to mask up around the dining table at Thanksgiving and Christmas and check your papers before you let Uncle Joe into the door. This is just something, this is crazy. As far as St. Vincent's goes, folks, the Herald at least is saying that the strike is finally over, and it'll be with the help of Marty Walsh to the rescue. Also, there's rumblings I hear that he's not happy in D.C., right? I don't know. Have you heard this? What say you? That he's not really cool with the whole Washington living, and that he's looking maybe at a run for governor, or maybe one of the other offices that could bring him back to Massachusetts. Well, the former mayor of Boston, who's now the labor secretary, mediated the deal, I guess in Dorchester. I don't know why they took, well, I guess it has to do with where the union is located. So it says, we are so grateful for the humbled by the efforts of Secretary Walsh today, and so pleased to have finally reached an agreement that we believe provides us with what we need to better care for our patients. And that will now take our membership for a vote to ratify, thus calling an end to our historic strike. And that's coming from Pellegrino, and she's a nurse and co-chair of the St. Vincent Hospital's Nurses Bargaining Unit. So St. Vincent's, for you in Worcester, guys, you won't see them out there every day by the post office striking. Apparently, Marty Walsh was able to do something to help bring that to an end. So good for Secretary Walsh. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines open and available. Let's jump back to the phones. And we've got Richard in New Hampshire. Good morning, Richard. How you doing? Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Merry Christmas to you, Joe.
A little higher on that?
Yeah. I listened to a guy. I know some people out there that probably listen to know him. His name is Charlie Ward. He's got about 17 million listeners around the world. Okay. He had a couple ex-soccer players on yesterday. And what he was saying with these guys that there's 150 soccer players now. These are all healthy guys. They're in their 20s, early 30s, and stuff like that that have died from getting the shot. Okay. So now these guys they got the shot, they got the stab, the jab, and they're all on a slab. Okay. Now, and they also came out and said, Joe, there's at least 500 other soccer players who got the shot and who have all kinds of troubles from getting the shot. I don't know if you're aware of that. Probably not, because they keep this a secret.
Well, Richard, wait, Richard.
Yes.
I have been talking on this show since it's come on the scene here. What, a year and a half? We're pushing 2 years that, and I say it almost every week, is to check the VAERS site out, VAERS.gov. This is the place to go if you want to look at adverse reactions and deaths reported from vaccinations and shots. And the point is that the problems that are on VAERS for the COVID shots are actually more than all the other vaccinations combined. So there is the information, and I remind people on the show all the time where you can find it. Yes, the mainstream media glosses right over it. They don't talk about it. They don't allow the conversation about natural immunity, about people who have had COVID, right? They don't want to count you as vaccinated. Now, does this have something to do with money? Well, I always say it does. You always follow the money. And if pharmaceuticals can't make money off of you being naturally vaccinated or taking other types of natural holistic methods here, unless they can figure out how to regulate it and charge for it, they don't want it to be a legal option, much less talk about.
Right. The other thing too, Joe, that they're not talking about, and this is very, very important. Okay, they came out, right? They said that there's 111 airline pilots that are not flying the friendly skies anymore. They all took the shot and they're all dead. This is what's going on out there, people. Okay. And I'm just saying to myself, Joe, when are we going to find out what is really going on here, and why are they trying to force us all to get the shot? And in a heartbeat, I can tell you, they want to eliminate us. They want to eliminate the middle class. And the thing that people don't realize, once you get the shot, okay, and if everybody gets the shot, you can't give blood. The Red Cross will not take your blood. They're not talking about that, are they, Joe?
I didn't know. I don't know if that's true. So if you have the virus, Red Cross won't take blood.
No. If you get the shot,
well, I just said that. If you get all right, so if you get if you get the shot for the virus, the vaccination, the RMNA, what about the Johnson and Johnson?
It don't make any difference. They won't give you. They won't take your blood. They can't take your blood because they got all those chemicals in there. You know, all the chemicals are in there. You got graphene oxide. You got all kinds of other stuff that's in there. Graphene oxide.
Well, here's a problem. We're talking 75% to 75% of the population here is vaccinated,
right.
And in some places in the world it's higher than that.
Yeah.
So you're saying that we're taking between 70 and 80% of the donors out of the pool of blood givers, and why haven't we heard about a blood problem? I mean, at this point, if that's been the case for a year and a half, blood banks have got to be empty or close to it.
Close to it, right? Because like I said, I haven't got the shot, but I'll tell you what, if one of my family members need it, I can give blood. But for me to go out there and give blood to somebody who went out and got the shot without looking into it at first, I will not give them any of my blood. I'm going to save my blood for my family. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I'm not going to give my blood to somebody who did not take the time to read what the hell is really they're putting in your body. Are you? Would you do that, Joe? I'm not trying to put you on the spot here.
No, I'm trying to look at the, and I don't know why I'm not. This isn't coming up on the thing. Here we go.
Be on the Red Cross.
All right, so the Red Cross site says that the Red Cross is following FDA blood donation eligibility guidance for those who receive the COVID-19 vaccination. Deferral times for donations may vary depending on which brand of the vaccine you receive. If you received COVID-19 vaccines, you'll need to provide the manufacturer the name when you came to donate. So they are asking the difference. So it is going to make a difference. In most cases, there is no deferral time for individuals who received COVID-19 vaccines, as long as they are symptom-free and feeling well at the time of donation. So they'll take it if you have it. It's just how you feel. The following eligibility guidelines apply to COVID-19 vaccine received, including boosters. There is no deferral time for eligible blood donors who are vaccinated with a non-replicating inactivated or RNA-based COVID-19 vaccination manufactured by AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Novavax, or Pfizer. Eligible blood donors who received a live COVID-19 vaccination or do not know what type of COVID-19 vaccine they received must wait 2 weeks before giving blood. So you can give blood. There's just some guidelines to it, according to the Red Cross. So where did you get the information that they won't take the blood? Where was that from?
I heard that on the Dr. Charlie Ward. He was saying, I don't know, maybe they can do it here, but I know in Europe, he came out and said they will not take the blood.
All right. Well, apparently, according to the Red Cross, yes, you can. There are some guidelines, which if you go to give blood, thank you for the call, Richard. If you go to give blood, they're going to ask you a few questions. They're going to see how you're feeling. They want to know which one you took, right? Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, et cetera. And depending on what it was, you might have to wait 2 weeks. But you can give blood if you've gotten vaccinated. So that's don't get nervous if that's the first thing you heard when you tuned in here. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN in our affiliates. 508-871-7000. Back in a moment.
Out with Joe.
Welcome to this edition of Out with Joe, brought to you by Levante's Auto School with 5 locations. Click Levante's Auto School to find one near you. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. And this week I thought we'd take a little time to talk about, well, some of those interesting Christmas facts that you can impress your friends and family with. For those of us who are a little out of practice when it comes to dinner table conversation, or you need to redirect the topic away from some controversial fare, these Christmas facts will come to your rescue. You can also use them to spice up your annual Christmas letter, give your social media posts some flair, or study up for holiday-themed trivia night. It's likely not news to anyone that there's a lot more to Christmas than giving and receiving gifts. For example, Christmas wasn't always on December 25th. While Christmas celebrates the birth of Jesus Christ, the actual date is lost to history. There's no mention of December 25th in the Bible, and many historians say Jesus was really born in the spring. And some historians say the date was originally chosen because it coincided with the pagan festival of Saturnalia, which honored the agricultural god Saturn with celebrating gift giving. And gifts have both Christian and pagan origins. See, Christians may have grown up learning that we give gifts at Christmas to mimic the presents the 3 wise men brought to baby Jesus. But like so many other traditions, that also has its roots in Saturnalia. The pagan originally gave offerings to the gods as well. And you can thank Prince Albert for your Christmas tree. So brew a cup of tea when trimming your tree this year to pay homage to its origin. See, when Prince Albert of Germany got a tree for his new wife, Queen Victoria of England, it really took off across the pond. Well, a drawing of the couple in front of the Christmas tree first appeared in the Illustrated London News in 1848. And, well, in today's vernacular, that really went viral, and people started putting trees in the house. And speaking of Santa's appearance and look, see, Coca-Cola played a part in Santa's image. Before Coca-Cola decided to use his image for advertising, Santa's looks tended to be more spooky than jolly. Then in 1931, the beverage company hired an illustrator named Haddon Sundblom to depict the jolly old elf for a magazine ad. Now kids see visions of sugar plums instead of having Santa-themed nightmares. And the hanging of your stockings, well, that kind of started by accident. Legend has it we hang stockings by the chimney with care, thanks to a poor man who didn't have enough money for his 3 daughters' dowries. See, generous old St. Nick dropped a bag of gold down their chimney one night after the girls had hung their freshly washed stockings there to dry. That's where the gold ended up, and the tradition stuck. Some might think that Black Friday is the busiest shopping day of the year, but Black Friday isn't the busiest shopping day. Black Friday, or the day after Thanksgiving, certainly sees a lot of shoppers heading to the mall, but we must be a nation of procrastinators because the most hectic days of the year are actually the Friday and Saturday before Christmas, so plan ahead if you don't care for crowds. And one more for you. Silent Night is the most recorded song. We all know the same few handful of Christmas songs play at stores and on the radio in a loop all season long, but one of them has been adapted more than others. Silent Night earns that title as the most recorded Christmas song in history. It's had more than 733 different versions copyrighted since 1978. For more of these facts and tips, check the post out on outwithjoe.com for the complete article. We have suspended the Music Minute for the time being, but please support your local musicians. We do. Follow us on the social media platforms at Out with Joe. Out with Joe has been brought to you by Levante's Auto School with 5 locations, one near you.
This is Sean Burke, president of the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts, asking you to visit us at lpdam.org when you think you need a private investigator. Don't let your emotions negatively affect your future. Get your answers through a Massachusetts licensed private investigator. Get the facts without risking your credibility by unknowingly committing a criminal offense. You need a license to perform investigations in Massachusetts. What are some types of work that requires a license? Any type of surveillance, interviewing someone for a third party, background and asset checks are just a few examples. For more on this, visit us at lpdm.org and tune into AM 830 WCRN Sunday mornings at 7:30 for case files from the LPDM or anytime at lpdmcasefiles.com.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoSchool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830, WCRN, our affiliates, and, of course, live streaming on the TuneIn app as well as other platforms. You can also watch the show in the live streaming on several of our platforms, right? You can check us out at Joe Mangi Show on our social media platforms, and we're live streaming on Facebook, Twitter, my LinkedIn page, YouTube channel, the Joe Mangiacotti Show, and we're even on Twitch TV. So you can check it out. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Our text line is available at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. All right, let's jump right to the phones. So you can do that again at 508-871-7000. Ken in Bolton. Good morning, Ken. And Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Joe. I'm doing quite well. And hello again, Patriot.
All right. Hey, is your tree up?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And when do you take it down?
Usually, depending on what day is Christmas, generally the weekend after.
So you don't keep
So
it
I
up till
guess
Christmas is over?
We keep it up after Christmas, yes.
Meaning January 6th or the 5th, 25th of December?
Well, that's just, it all depends. Being the 25th, the weekend of the 1st and 2nd is probably when we'll bring it down. Because
All right.
waiting another week is too much.
All right. Well, see, that's the thing, right? Because people never leave it up till Christmas is over because they usually put it up early. So the tree's so dead by the time little Christmas gets here that you see them all gone. But, the 12 days goes from the 25th to January 6th.
Yep.
So, yeah, curious. My
They
mother
could be
wouldn't let us put it
conspiracy
up
with that,
until
Joe.
Christmas Eve.
Why hasn't somebody put that together? January 6th.
Yeah, that's the 12 days of Christmas. So
Oh,
the
boy.
partridge in the pear tree came on the 25th. And what's the 12th thing you get for Christmas? Russ, do you know 12th?
I think it's 12 Lords of Leaping, I think.
12 Lords of Leaping?
I think. Because I know the Lords of Leaping are in the...
7 songs of swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves.
Because 8 maids of milking, 9 ladies dancing.
Come on,
Or
Ken.
drummers.
The drummers.
I think it's 12 drummers drumming.
It is 12 drummers.
12 drummers drumming.
There you go.
There we go.
I didn't see this year, right? But someone usually calculates what it would cost in today's dollars to give the 12 gifts. Because you got to give the partridge in the pear tree 12 times, right? And the second one, 11 times right up. So it's ridiculous. But anyway, your tree's up. You've got the new grandchild for the first Christmas. 2 grand new children for the Christmas. So that's going to make it very special.
Yeah, we're having a big gathering tomorrow.
You are? Fantastic.
Yeah, my family side. So it's going to be, I guess, around 24 now. So it's going to be like 16 adults and 8 children.
All right. And you're checking everybody's vaccination papers on the way in, I assume. And they'll all be masked up. Sorry, Grandma, you have to wait out in the RV. You can't come in. We'll send out a plate, though.
we are going to do outdoor activities. In fact,
But you got the weather.
Well, here's the thing. At first, we weren't going to have today's snow. It was supposed to just be rain, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm near a golf course. We'll walk around the golf course. We'll play games outside my yard, blah, blah, blah. Even if it's cold, no problem. And then the snow hits, and I'm like, oh, that's gone. And then yesterday morning, it hit me. Well, wait a minute. I live on a hill. We got all these kids coming. Sliding time.
One of the best things ever, right? I mean, that's just living in New England. You've got tons of hills around here, and you got the snow. I mean, I don't know how they do it in the South. I mean, imagine growing up, not knowing the joys of sledding, Ken.
Yeah.
That's deprived from your childhood. That's not good, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you were calling about a communist senator from our neighboring state of Connecticut.
Yeah, yep. And so just a quick question. You were talking about the days you'll be on shows, not tomorrow and not next Saturday.
Right.
Next Sunday?
Yeah.
You'll be back.
Good question. Yeah, I don't think we'll have live programming on the 1st, and I'll have to check with management, but I don't see why I wouldn't be in on the 2nd of January.
Well, I'm thinking the 26th next Sunday.
Excuse
both
me.
days? Both days off?
Oh, yeah, next weekend, yeah. Yeah, the whole weekend's gone. Nobody's going to be in on Saturday or Sunday.
It's probably going for a weekend at the earliest, the 2nd.
What are you talking about now? Oh, then I'll be back. No, I'll be back Monday at 1:00.
Well, I'm just speaking Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay, yeah. I'll have Christmas weekend off, so I'll be back. I'm assuming on January 2nd, because I don't think any of us will be on the 1st. I'm assuming.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
Again, ask management.
My thing is, it's not. I don't care. I mean, I would work on New Year's Day. I don't want to screw up people like Russ's day and stuff. The people, because for me to come on the air, other people have to work. So I wouldn't do that to them. I wouldn't I don't care. I mean, it's not like I don't do that. Go out, somewhere at midnight. Ken, I think it's a little long gone in my days. I don't do that.
Yep.
It wouldn't matter to me. But it's the other people around me that I wouldn't work on New Year's Day because of that.
So with that schedule, I have to give, as you know,
Yes.
Hall of Fame.
Yes, we will have to take care of that today, I guess. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So that's what you're asking me about the senator.
Oh,
good old Diang Dick.
So let's when we do this, Ken, we always got to make sure, because it's not just you and I talking at the kitchen table here. We've got people have got to know what we're talking about. But we have, first of all, Senator Blumenthal, Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, folks. This is the guy that you may not remember who lied about his Vietnam service, his military service. He lied about that. He used it in his leverage in his campaign, right? And it was he just lied about what he did. So there's that.
Never went to Vietnam.
Pretended that he did, pretended that he was in it, in the heart of it, the thick of it. And they still keep reelecting this guy. So now he has recently he gave awards to the Communist Party. He went to support friends who were honored with the Connecticut People's World Committee's annual Amistad Award. So this is tied to the Communist Party USA and listed on the Marxist People's World News site. So that's what we're talking about. It was a party hosted by the Communist Party affiliate, and he was there because he helped give awards. So that's what we're talking about. But go ahead on your point on Senator.
And the chutzpah of the guy, he's up for re-election next year.
Look
guess who I'm going to be talking about.
It's okay to be openly a communist now. It's okay to be totally anti-American, right? We've got actions, deeds, and words to that effect.
So WCRN is a blowtorch. You know, there's people living in Connecticut right now listening to this. Hello, folks.
We have an affiliate out in the western part of the state that blasts right into Connecticut. So yeah, we have many people in Connecticut listening to this show right now. And
Time to
you have a
act.
communist representing you in the Senate, people.
A very clear target. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's time.
Well, the problem here, like always, Ken, is that the GOP does not farm and put candidates up, even if it's just to make them work harder for the seat. All right, they just don't do it. And one of the biggest problem, and we see this now, is the GOP never goes after the lower level seats, like school committees and council seats and town committee seats and those elected positions at the very local level, right? They're always filled by members of the Democratic Party because the Democrats actually farm their politicians. Just like in baseball, right? They treat the school committee and the school boards like the Pawtucket Red Sox or now the Worcester Red Sox, right? They treat them as the AAA team, the farm league. They get elected, they hold the office there, and they work their way up, and they decide who's going to be next, and that's how they do it. Whereas Republicans tend to go out in the world, build their business, build their careers, and then decide that things are so messed up. Let me take all the skills I've learned in the private sector, transfer it into public service, but then they don't have like we had a president who never held an elected office, yet gave us some of the best policies and best economy and lowest unemployment in the history of the country.
And he's a threat to the swamp.
Yes. Therefore, they bill him as a threat to democracy. Their version of democracy, that is. So yeah, Blumenthal is just I just don't get why they keep electing this guy, because everybody wants change, but nobody wants to lose their guy, right? That's the thing. The Congress and Senate approval rating is in the tank. They don't have support, but they want everybody else's representative to go, our guy's good, though, because he got some money for a bridge or something, which is what their job is, by the way. But according to Blumenthal, he told the Hartford Courant, my understanding was that this ceremony was strictly a labor event. If I had known the details, I wouldn't have gone. Let me just say very empathically, I'm a Democrat and a strong believer in American capitalism. I have been consistently a Democrat and a strong supporter and believer in the American capitalism.
Oh, so he's telling us what Democrats are.
So is this because he got caught? I mean, when stuff like this happens, like I said earlier, right? When they come out with this, the Salvation Army with, well, we're gonna take this down and review it. Here's the thing, folks. The time for the reviewing of it before you post it. Senator Blumenthal, the time to review and look at what event you're attending is before you go to the event. You're telling me that nobody in his office asked what this was or knew what this was? I mean, so you're telling me I can blindly send an invitation to this guy's office and they'll just come without asking?
And when there's communists introducing you with communist slogans and stuff, hello, you know where you're at.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, that's a good point. Do you want us to believe that you had no idea what it was, or you don't know where you are at any given time? I mean, which one's better? Right? It's got to be one of the two. You know, and he used the speaking platform at the original event, right, to advocate for Biden's $1.7 trillion Build Back Better package, which we know isn't anywhere near 1.7 trillion. It's more like 5 trillion. And it's loaded with tons of communist jumping forward movements, Green New Deal stuff, jacking up the IRS. And the IRS, that's for a shakedown, people. Okay, you really think that that's going to bring in more money from rich people think about this right now. Ask yourself if you get that dreaded IRS letter, and they're telling you, I think there's a mistake. It will cost you 10 grand, and we can settle this. Are you going to pay the 10,000, or are you going to spend 50,000 on CPAs and attorneys to fight it? Because they're not going to do that to the Donald Trumps of the world, because they already pay. I mean, Trump already pays hundreds of thousands, maybe $1 million a year in tax attorneys and stuff when you have $50 million a year income, right? So who do you think is going to end up paying through the nose?
The small businessman, Joe.
The small
businessmen are
businessman.
getting-
That's who's going to
gonna
get it.
hammered.
So this bill, this support of this bill is you're supporting the creation and funding of an IRS army, as well as AOC's, right? The Green New Deal, the environmental core, which would basically be taxpayer paid workers for people like AOC. That's in the bill too. You want to fund that? Oh, and they also want to give federal money to campaigns. I don't know where you are on that, Ken, but the last thing I think, and no tax money should ever go to a campaign.
Absolutely agree.
I mean, this is crazy. So the longer that this isn't going to make it, right? This Build Back Better,
Oh, you
which
heard the
even
latest,
the
Joe.
name is asinine. What's that?
Joe, it's dead.
Yeah, it is dead this year. And assuming that the Republicans control the House next year, or after November, right? It's not going to happen anyway, which is good, because this would be a horrible thing for the country. Now, there are things in the bill that are good, but the problem is they always stuff these bills, Ken, with so much crap, bull, right? And pork and
Joe,
policies
I don't
that
think
are anti-American.
I don't think there's anything good in this one. Nothing.
Well,
It's
some of the
all
stuff
to
about
create a permanent
bringing
tax.
manufacturing back and buying American is good, but you know what? It sounds an awful lot like "Make America Great Again." I mean, look at Biden. I mean, his whole life is plagiarizing and ripping off from other people. So, I mean, when the slogan came out, "Build Back Better," I'm thinking, "Make America Great Again," "Build Back Better." Is it a new twist on the same thing? Are you trying to be Trumpist?
It's an international slogan that the far left in Europe has been pushing. So this is all the Great Reset.
Yeah, the Great Reset. What do they want to do, guys? What is it? What's the end goal in the Great Reset, by the way? That's the question you
Power
need
and
to ask.
control of the whole world.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
So anyway, crossing to the Hall of Fame. London Breed.
Oh.
And I'm just speaking about the words. Because if what she said this week, she actually acts on, okay, she deserves to be Hall of Fame. Now, if the actions don't match the words, I'm going to bring her back onto the Hall of Shame.
Again, let's fill people in. So, folks, if you don't know who London Bree is, she's the mayor of San Francisco. This is the woman who, a little over a year ago, defunded the San Francisco police by $120 million, who villainized the police, who was pro, the riots and the BLM movement and all that. Also, the woman who mandated the masks and then is on camera without a mask dancing at a wedding, which is dancing at a wedding's fine. I have a problem with that, folks. But she's crammed into this wedding without a mask on under her own mandate. And when she's called out about it, her answer is, well, sometimes you just got to dance. So I don't know. Does that mean that if you go to get a ticket or a fine in San Francisco, all you have to say is sometimes you got to drive, sometimes you got to walk down the street, sometimes you just got to be you? Is that the answer to that?
Yeah, sometimes I have to drop the drawers and drop a deuce.
Exactly. So the problem here, folks, is she comes out now with this tough talk, sounded more like a conservative than she does a mayor of San Francisco about, oh, by the way, you know how in her little speech, she swore, right?
Yeah.
Here's my thing on this. Have you ever noticed, and probably going to get texts for this, but I think when women politicians are trying to be tough and make a point, they tend to swear. And I don't know if that's them thinking that that's making them tough. I just think it's lack of dignity, and I don't think it's great, right? You don't need to do it. You don't need to show us you're tough because you used the BS word or something, lady. But she came out very much. We're going to stop this bull. We're going to prosecute. We're going to do all this. Well, that's the problem. It's not necessarily the governors and the mayors, folks. It's the DAs. Those are the people who prosecute or not prosecute. And when you got a district attorney who isn't prosecuting anyone who steals under $950, or isn't, there is no bail for people, therefore no consequences, and you've empowered the criminal, you're going to get crime. Now she wants to get tough on it. So I'm with you as far as I love to hear that she's finally woken up. And what changed there, Ken? What changed? Was it only when they stopped looting and smashing and grabbing the Walgreens and the CVS's and the dollar stores, and they started doing Louis Vuitton and the Ferrari dealers? Like when they started hitting the places that they and their friends and donors shop? Like what was the point? What all of a sudden made her, has she been blind for a year and a half? Did she not know this was going? Like what changed? What was the straw that broke the camel's back? What was jumping the shark? What was it that made her finally say, we got to stop this criminal activity?
One of her constituents, Nancy Pelosi, called her up and said, hey, wait a minute, I shop there. Got to stop this.
Who was it? Was it was it Barbara Boxer? Who was the former female senator that got mugged in daylight? I mean, in broad day.
You're right. That was 10 or so years ago.
No, this is not 10 years ago. This is recently.
Huh?
Like
Maybe.
within the last year. One of the former, is it, I think Barbara Boxer.
Yeah, yeah. She's the former senator.
Yeah, so she here she is, a grandmother walking across the street, and she gets assaulted. And not a sitting senator, a former senator, but I'm sure some phone calls were made about that.
Hey, we're just talking about the pro-crime rats, right?
Yeah.
That's what they are, pro-crime rats.
So, Hall of Fame, London Bree, which is a fantastic name, by the way. I think it's one of the coolest names in politics, right? London Bree.
Yeah, maybe she's been red-pilled.
Well, that's a possibility. Often what it takes to get red-pilled is crime hits you at home. And you realize...
Well, the definition, how do you make a liberal into conservative?
Yeah, exactly. Have them fall victim to a crime. And that will do it. Oh. Who's in your Hall of Shame?
Well, I already mentioned...
Blumenthal.
Blumenthal.
Okay.
Is the Dan Dick.
Got it. Dick
I
Blumenthal.
love that nickname. They hit him with that 15 years ago when he was running. I shouldn't say 15. So he was running first in 2011 or 2010. And so his opponents nailed him with that. But
yeah,
unfortunately, it wasn't good enough for the Connecticut voters to realize.
Right. Well,
hopefully
I mean, the guy keeps getting put back into office. Again, that's everybody's prerogative to elect who you elect. But remember, you get exactly what you deserve when you elect somebody. That's the problem here. And if you feel that regardless of how out of touch and how much they don't represent you or represent the majority of the constituency, you still vote for them. So that's the problem. That's the problem. Now, I'm interested. I don't know do you know where Blumenthal is in the senatorial cycle? Because they're every 6 years.
No, he's up next year.
Pardon me?
He's up for re-election in 2022.
All right. So his 6th year is now. All right. So he's up for re-election in this November. Yeah. And do you know if the GOP has put anybody up yet?
I've done a little bit of research, and they seem to be losers, meaning that they've run in the past.
And they haven't gotten anywhere.
What they need is somebody who's a small businessman and or military experience, or both would be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see where so many veteran, experienced police officers are now out of a job. They've retired or what have you. I would love to see a lot of these guys and ladies run for office. Like her name escapes me. I know my listeners, you guys know the black female police chief. They wanted to cut her salary 40%. Was that not Portland? I'll look it up. I would love to see her run, right? Let's see some of these police officers who have been canceled or left because of the environment. Let them run for public office, because they would look at what happened in New York. Adams,
Yeah, Joe,
right?
I think you're thinking of the one that was in Seattle.
Seattle police chief, right. She would be a great candidate. And look at, you got a former New York police officer. Adams just became mayor of New York. And I think him being a police officer had a lot to do with it. But Ken, I got to hold you there because
real quick, Joe.
Yep.
You got to check out Emily Burns, 4th District, Massachusetts. Great candidate. Hank interviewed her yesterday.
Emily Burns. All right.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break here in the Joe Mangiacotti Show. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines are open and available. This is Joe Mangiacotti from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. Back in a moment.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
7 o'clock. Hey, folks, Joe Mangiacotti from the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, talk radio is the immune system to the partisan, bias, political rhetoric attacking us on a daily basis. Get inoculated. The Joe Mangiacotti Show is your vaccine. Join me weekend mornings, 6 to 8. A wedding is a beautiful ceremony, and it is the most important day of your life. And if you'd like your wedding to be a memorable experience and one that your family and your guests will carry with them for the rest of your lives, I'd offer you to consider a Justice of the Peace. Justice Missy Margolis has been performing her duties for over 8 years for the sheer joy and pleasure of bringing other people happiness. Missy officiated my wedding ceremony, and she will work with you to create a perfect wedding ceremony that reflects your traditions, beliefs, culture, while showing the world the beauty of who you are. I've personally known Missy for nearly 40 years, and whether you have a complex or a traditional wedding, a quick modern ceremony, Justice Missy Margolis will make it beautiful. Missy can also do vow renewals and remembrances, ceremonies that include your children. She can perform a small, intimate ceremony to a large wedding any day of the week. Missy is truly a justice for all. You can call Missy directly at 508-735-8999. That's 508-735-8999. And of course, you can click ajusticeforall.com. Again, ajusticeforall.com. Hi, I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you probably recognize me from the radio, or at least my voice, maybe from this station you're listening to now. And if you don't know, over my 30-plus years on the air, I've been best known for the real estate, mortgage, and financial talk that I've done. And what you may not know is that I haven't just talked the talk, but I've walked the walk. You see, I've been a licensed real estate salesperson here in the Commonwealth since 1984. And my very first venture into talk radio in 1986 was actually a real estate talk show. So I just wanted to remind you, or maybe inform you, that if you're considering selling or purchasing a property or looking to invest in income-producing property, consider having a conversation. You won't just be tapping the 3+ decades of my experience with marketing, purchasing, investing, and even being a landlord, but that of the countless experts and professionals that I've had the privilege of interviewing, working with, and learning from. Think of the vast network and contacts you'd have access to. So before making a move, make a call. You can click joerealtors.com, find me on Facebook at Joe Realtors, or email me at cameoproperty@gmail.com, or just call direct to my cell, 508-969-1088. That's 508-969-1088. And listen to Heidi Zizza and myself on Handling Change.
If you were to ask any retiree in a word, they would tell you that retirement is all about income. Income in retirement is a permission slip to enjoy life. Income provides the freedom to spend money each month, knowing that more will arrive next month and the month after that. As important as it is to accumulate assets for your retirement, it's equally, if not more important, to maximize the income being generated from your assets. My name is Jerry Doherty, and my radio program, Making Money Last, has been heard right here on WCRN. Well, do you know if your retirement income is as high as it could be? Are you living off less than you should be? Well, I'd like to offer you a complimentary review to answer that very question. Simply call my office at 877-772-1776. I'm conveniently located right on Route 9 in Westboro. Again, my number is 877-772-1776. Let's increase your income today.
This is Sean Burke, president of the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts, asking you to visit us at lpdam.org when you think you need a private investigator. Don't let your emotions negatively affect your future. Get your answers through a Massachusetts licensed private investigator. Get the facts without risking your credibility by unknowingly committing a criminal offense. You need a license to perform investigations in Massachusetts. What are some types of work that requires a license? Any type of surveillance, interviewing someone for a third party, background and asset checks are just a few examples. For more on this, visit us at lpdm.org and tune into AM 830 WCRN Sunday mornings at 7:30 for case files from the LPDM or anytime at lpdmcasefiles.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second hour of the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. You can also text us in real time by simply using our text line, which is 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388, or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. It appears on the same screen in real time. And from 845, so Richard Blumenthal, this is coming in on text, folks. Richard Blumenthal now claims he didn't know he was attending a communist event in New Haven, but New Haven is the Connecticut headquarters of the Communist Party. Former Governor Molly actually sponsored a grant to replace the roof of their building, and it was shut down due to backlash. And apparently yesterday on a show, they had clips of the speaker praising the Communist Party. So, look, if you want to elect a communist, fortunately, it's only one of hundreds of people. But if we keep putting communists or people with communist tendencies into Congress and into the Senate, we're going to have a problem here. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines are open and available, so feel free to jump in. All right, so speaking of representatives, members of Congress, again, another example, and I have to call these out when I see them because they can't just slip by, but we're back to the rules for thee and not for me. Here we have Maxine Waters, right? Representative Waters, who's out there, right, on the mask regulations, telling us all how to live and that we must be masked up. And she's the one who also was telling people not to give any member of the Trump administration a rest or supporters of Trump. If you see them in restaurants or anywhere, get in their face. Don't let them have a peaceful dinner or a peaceful night. That's her, right? And she's out there flouting mask regulations. She was doing it for at least an hour at a flight to L.A. So she's photographed. So we have photographic evidence. This is someone saying, well, she wasn't wearing a mask, right? Without a mask on board a cross-country United Airlines flight. And here's the thing. And earlier in the show, we talked about the airline, or I talked about the fact the airline and the people who want the mask regulations to go away the most on airlines are the attendants. Now, here are the attendants telling everybody on this cross-country flight, United Airlines, to wear their mask. I mean, to the point that if you fall asleep and the mask slips down, they're going to wake you up to tell you to put the mask on. But they don't tell her. They didn't remind Representative Waters that there's a mask mandate on the flight. So what is she, hands off? Although she was pictured with a coffee cup, a witness claims the California Democrat had it off for the entire hour and even napped with it off. And she has slammed Trump last year for his refusal to wear a mask, an attitude that she links with surges in COVID-19, which, of course, more people have died under the Biden administration than the Trump administration. It comes as COVID cases skyrocketed nationwide, and experts warn the Omicron variant cases will double every 3 days. Now, we've talked about this. We know that this Omicron is much more contagious, but it's a lot weaker. And if I had my dithers about it, I would rather have the Omicron variant and have the weaker symptoms, the milder case of it, but still give my body the opportunity to understand what it needs to fight and to create the white blood cells and the antibodies into the system, and therefore naturally being vaccinated if I had my choice, of course. Just another case, rules for thee, not for me. Maxine Waters, napping without a mask, doing the flight without a mask while the airline attendants are making sure they're down everybody else's throat about the mask, but hands off. This reminds me of something before I go to the phones at 508-871-7000. Reminds me, so in New York the other day, right, this whole mask vaccination mandate thing goes in, that you have to be vaccinated to go into the restaurants. So the vaccination police show up from the city to this one particular restaurant to say, I'm going to come in and I'm going to check people's papers. And guess what the maitre d' did? The door person. They said, before you come in to this establishment, according to the rules, I have to see your vaccination papers. And guess who didn't have them? That's right. The vaccination police. She didn't have her vaccination papers to prove she was vaccinated, and they wouldn't let her into the restaurant for her to check the vaccination papers on everyone else. I think that's brilliant, and kudos to her. 508-871-7000. Let me go to Bruce in Northbridge. Good morning, Bruce, and Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Merry Christmas. I really appreciate your Christmas time trivia. When you were talking about Silent Night,
yeah,
my mother is bilingual, so she's been singing Silent Night in French.
Oh, that must be beautiful.
As long as I can remember, in this area, and now she's down in Florida doing it. She's 88 years old, so kudos to her for not losing the language.
Yes.
The problem is, the kids lost the language, but have not lost the history, the music, and the traditions of the culture. So I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. When we're talking about politics, I can't even get past Blumenthal's stolen valor.
Yes.
Valor. Okay? These people are electing people that steal people's military history, records, and they just keep on electing.
Yeah.
Since day one of this pandemic, we have had people running around with minute-by-minute information on what this is all about. The military guys at the American Heritage Museum in Hudson agreed with me that if you're going to learn what germ warfare is, this is a perfect example of how to shut down a whole country without using one bullet. And that's a scary thought, because people have been running around not knowing what they were looking at.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're going to protect this. We're going to follow the science. Well, you may disagree with me, but I'm following the science.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look.
They said that 95%, they said that the vaccine was 95% effective. I hope that I'm part of the 95% effective
Yeah.
stuff that I have in my body. So that means that 200 million people that are vaccinated, 5% of that total, they're going to get it. That's what the science says.
It does. You know, and Bruce, you're not the first person to make reference to the timing of this virus, by the way, being released into the world. And now we can officially, and this is the interesting thing, right? Because big tech has been censoring all of us. And I'm not talking about if you went out there preaching some theory, conspiracy theory. I'm talking about just normal conversation on the social media platforms. If you simply ask the questions, well, wait a minute, the science says this, doesn't that mean that? Or what about this? They would just shut you down. And now, right, we do have officially being recognized that the origin of the COVID-19 virus leaked out of the Wuhan lab. Now, if you said that a year ago, you were just wiped off social media altogether. You weren't allowed. And that stems a lot from the fact that Trump was the first person to bring this up and called it the Wuhan virus, right? And the China virus. And now we are allowed to say it, though, Bruce.
I'm not saying anything that none of you're intelligent, and I think they're all intelligent. All your callers have known this for years. The sleeping giant has always been China. And who was challenging China for 2 or 3 years before this came up the path?
Absolutely. And who did China own? Who does China own, Bruce?
Exactly. And
So
these people and the nurses at St. Vincent, I hope to God that they work so hard to help us out the next month. Because what they did, and I'm probably, a minority, what they did to all of us while they were working around being heroes. And that stopped. And they decided to go on strike during a pandemic. And I know I'm in the minority,
right,
but I'm not too happy with them doing that.
I got to be honest with listeners here. I do not know the finer details of the St. Vincent's strike and argument. Okay, so I'm not going to pretend I do or try to speak to it, but I understand. Look, they went on strike. My understanding is because of hours versus in pay and conditions. Is that fair to say, Bruce? Is that what happened?
I think more or less, but
Okay.
That's something you fight about when you don't have.
Right. I see what your point is saying, that at this point we have a worldwide pandemic going on, a once in a century type of thing going on, right? Nothing compared to this since the Spanish flu of 1918. And this isn't the time to go on strike. Do what you need to do what everyone else in your profession's doing, and we'll be happy to come back to the table with this when we get through it. Is that fair to say? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, this is all going to go away. It's going to start going away when the good weather comes in. And then when they try to steal more of our election rights. Again, you know how I feel about this. If you don't have election rights, you don't have any basis for a country.
No.
And they're going to try to steal more of that.
Yeah. And look, folks, really the last.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Bruce. Great call. Again, the last hope we have, the last power that we have as citizens of the country is at the ballot box. And that's why keeping elections honest is the most crucial thing in front of us. Now that this Build Back Better bill is dead in the water, isn't going to happen this year. What did the president say the other day? Focus on the election bill, right? The election, what they want to do. And that's as scary or maybe more scary than focused on the Build Back Better. He wants to focus on that part of it. And he wants to pass legislation. First of all, stop messing with the electoral process. It was fine. Matter of fact, I think the clock should be wound back. I've been very clear about my feelings when it comes to the election or elections, that there is no reason that you can convince me that a counting box, a ballot box at our local polling place needs to be connected to the internet. None whatsoever. I don't even think it needs to be electronic. I think it needs to be as low tech as possible. Its purpose, its only purpose, its sole purpose for being constructed and it existing on this planet is to count your vote. That's it. And it should be as tamper-proof and basic as possible. You go in, you check, punch, mark, whatever it is that you do, and you slide it into this secure box that counts the vote, period. There's no reason to be on the internet for it to be updated or checked in on or calibrated or reset or nothing. And then that box, under the watchful eye, and lock and key, of course, and the watchful eye of a paid peace officer, escorts that back to the counting room, the city clerk, the town clerk, wherever that may be, under many eyes. That nothing is counted in the back room, nothing is counted in secret, and certainly bags and ballots don't magically appear. Every ballot should be able to be traced from the moment someone uses, they take the ballot from that person at that folding desk to when it's counted in the appropriate clerk's office. We should be able to follow that step, the entire process, which is why the whole concept of drop boxes is asinine. We don't need them. The things that they want to put into these voting bills only make it easier and open to corruption and fraudulent votes, period. Drop boxes are a haven for that. Nobody's monitoring that. 24/7, somebody can drive up, walk up, and stuff whatever they want into this box. No need for that. And there's no need for voting days after the election is held. For the umpteenth time, I've said this, folks, we don't surprise you with the election. You're not wondering, when are we going to have the election? And we don't announce on Thursday, all right, folks, Tuesday's election day. Get down there and vote Tuesday. You know the election day months, if not years in advance. They're set on the second Tuesday, right? That we know when they are. If you cannot get yourself down to the the polling place and cast your vote, then fine. You have an alternative. It's called an absentee ballot, and that's been in existence. I'm not talking about mass mailing of ballots. Again, that should be illegal. Municipalities of any type should not be able to just mass mail ballots. And I know people here in the state are going to say, well, no, you got to request it. Wrong. It doesn't happen. How many people on this show alone have called to demonstrate and tell us stories about receiving ballots they didn't request for members of their family who haven't lived there for years? As a matter of fact, one of our own talk hosts will tell you about his daughter who's been living out in California for 20 years, still gets ballots mailed to their family home. They certainly weren't requested. That's got to stop. If a ballot is mailed out, it should only be because the recipient, and only the recipient, requested that to be sent to the address of record where they're registered to vote. And if you can't make it that day, and I'll go along with to the point that even if you just don't want to go, because prior to the pandemic, we had a absentee ballots by reason, right? So you needed to contact your clerk, city or town clerk, and say, I need an absentee ballot. And they would ask you why. Why aren't you going to go to the poll that day? And you had to give a reason. And yes, believe it or not, they could accept the reason or not. It was within the power of the town or city clerk to say that's not a good excuse. Which to I say, no, I don't think that's the power a clerk should have. I'm fine with, I don't want to go, I can't make it. I just don't want to go. There are people who just don't want to actually go down that day, stand in line, do the whole process. That's fine. So you contact the city clerk weeks in advance. You tell them, I'm not going to be able to go to the poll that day. I'd like an absentee ballot. No questions asked. Who are you? What's the address? It matches. Everything matches. They mail it out. You need a witness. That's not too much to ask. You could have this ballot literally for weeks before you have to send it back. So that means you're going to come in contact with somebody who you ask them, here, I'm signing this, you witness this, you put some ID in the one in Texas, right? The bill in Texas, they were all up in arms about this voter bill in Texas. And all the bill said is that you had to put down a witness, a signature, but you had to put down, if you didn't have one, you had to put down your ID. Well, they don't have IDs. This is where we get, now this is one of the most racial things out there. They say that these bills are anti-black, that we're trying to stop the black vote because we're asking for ID. And every single black person I've asked about this voting regulation on that point are insulted because you're trying to tell an entire section of the community, a race, that they don't have the wherewithal to be able to get an ID like everyone else on the planet does. But the bill in Texas, all it said is, all you have to do is put the last 4 digits of your social security number, your signature and the last 4 digits, and they'll match up the rest. That's not a lot to ask for. So you send back the absentee ballot. That goes in. It's voted. It should be counted. The day of, or maybe, they open it the day before, what have you. I don't think that they should be start counting them and voting. That's the other thing. Early voting should not happen months in advance. Again, you have the option of the absentee. I think it's fine. Elections Tuesday, they can count them on Thursday or Friday or what have you. I don't think they should publish those. Nothing should be swaying the election day. Because you're going to, if it's allowed to report, depending on where you are and what the media is, they're going to reporting, even if it's not true. How many times can we look in history, in recent history included, of media telling us someone was so far ahead? Does the 2016 Florida vote ring a bell, guys? No. They can count them. I don't think we should be counting them for weeks after or days after the election day. And I don't think that votes should be able to be cast for weeks or days after election day. That's the election day. Your vote is in, you vote that day, or your absentee ballot's in by that day, period. And I'll go far as to say as long as it's postmarked by that date. So that means they might get it a day or two after the election closed, but as long as it's postmarked and it was in the mail, in the system before the end of the election day. This election bill, trying to federalize elections, trying to give money to candidates, trying to open up all kinds of avenues and to eliminate the need for ID. Why do you suppose they would like to eliminate the need for identification to vote? when we are looking at cities allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections. What's the next step? It's a slippery slope. It's the camel in the tent, nose in the tent. I'm telling you what it is. And if we lose our faith in the election process, we've lost the country, because that is truly the last line of defense that we have, is the ballot box. We don't change our government with coups and military action. We change it with voting. That's the system. That's the way our founding fathers set it up. That's the way it works. And that's why our electoral process has to be entirely integrity and beyond reproach. We have to take a break here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrot Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Stick with us. Back on the other side. 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. Stick with us. Good morning and welcome to Case Files from the LPDAM, where we take a look at the lessons from actual cases, the law behind the findings, and where we share the experiences of the experts of the Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts. Joining us this week is Sean Burke, current president of LPDAM and resident manager of Social Justice Advocacy Project and author of industry-related books. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Joe.
Well, listen, I thought I'd touch an area that is kind of in the news lately, and that's a bit of an understatement, but one of the biggest issues our society is facing today is addiction. How do you see its impacts on the next generation and generations to come?
Joe, I'd like to start by saying addiction is giving up everything for one thing, whereas recovery, on the other hand, is giving up one thing for everything. Addiction is a sad part of our society. The truth is, we do not value our youth to be proactive enough to curb or eliminate the drug flow into our communities. This is no knock on the reactive side of addiction, like the police or social workers who deal with the addictive personalities every day. I am talking about a real war on drugs, not a tagline spewed from our nation's capital. I am serious about identifying the core issue at its inception.
Sean, what do you think the core issue is with the majority of people using drugs, especially the first time?
Simply put, Joe, boredom. Trying to fit in is another top contender. So how can we combat the obvious? Be proactive in our communities. Truly hold individuals accountable for providing drugs to others. I am not talking about a slap on the wrist. I am talking about mandatory time in jail. We are talking about 8% of our population is lost in one form or another to drug addiction. They are no longer productive citizens, and oddly enough, it is an acceptable practice in America.
How could we change the current trend in America?
Joe, it is not as complicated as people make it. It will take time and years to curb the mentality or acceptance of drug use in the United States. However, it can be done by investing in our youth. Communities need to fix their parks, build facilities where our teens can thrive and be in a safe environment, a place where we can help people build their confidence in themselves. At our high schools, we need to change our approach with sports. For example, if we can field multiple competitive teams, then do it. Wouldn't it make sense to spend money proactively with sports rather than reactively with drug addiction? I can name high school after high school where they have large numbers at tryouts and only a few make the team. Many of the athletes' careers are over and they become bored. This boredom is dangerous and unnecessary in a country as wealthy as the United States. We have an institutional accountability to protect the next generations from the world of drugs. We need to value our youth more and invest in proactive measures to keep them safe from entering this dark world of drug use.
Sean, we certainly do have a higher responsibility to our youth.
Joe, I think it's time the world took LPDM's motto of "You're in good hands with LPDM." Wouldn't it be nice to hear the next generation saying, "You're in good hands with our government, our neighbors, our friends"?
Absolutely. It would be. Sean, thank you for stopping by Case Files.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you for joining us for Case Files from the LPDAM. Join us here each Sunday morning on WCRN 8:30 a.m. and anytime online at lpdamcasefiles.com. You can visit LPDAM at lpdam.org. And of course, you can find LPDAM on Facebook and Twitter at PINMass and call anytime at 800-955-6274. For Sean, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
This Find a Forever Home for Teddy's Friends brought to you by Cantiani Insurance Group with 2 locations, Douglas and Worcester. Anytime at CantianiAgency.com. This week's candidate is a 1.5-year-old Siberian Husky and Collie mix, Stewie. Stewie is up for an adventure and is looking for a committed and loving family to call his own. Being a young, rambunctious dog, he still exhibits the same mouthy, jumpy behaviors that a young puppy would. He is a strong dog who will require a stronger leader to set a routine and provide daily exercise. He has been in homes with and without dogs, and at this time he needs to focus on training and how to appropriately act around other dogs long term. Stewie is part of our foster to adopt program, and his new family will need to complete training with our selected program. We want to ensure that this boy has everything he needs to have a fulfilling and wonderful life. If you would like more information about Stewie, or you would like to schedule an appointment to meet him, please contact the shelter. For the complete details and link, go to Teddy's Facebook page at Teddy Goodpop. Find a Forever Home is brought to you by Cantiani Insurance Group at CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088.
All right, folks, welcome back to the final segment of the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, online at tjmshow.com and all of our social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. Don't forget we're live streaming on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, my LinkedIn page, my YouTube channel, and even Twitch TV. All right, check it all out. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. And, you know, we're back to, I got to point this out because we have seen that as of late, when the left have decided that you are wrong, they are right, or that in Trump's case, they are so bad and evil that any method is okay. It's totally justifiable to break the law, to alter documents, to do whatever is needed to do because you've justified it in your own mind. And we have another example where, because Adam Shifty Shift here was caught doctoring texts to Jordan, to Representative Jim Jordan. So from the American Thinker, this is coming, that Rep Schiff doctored those text messages. And at law, fraud is a very specific act requiring that the person be charged with fraud knowingly makes a false statement intending that people rely on it. And the fraud becomes actionable if people do rely on it to their determinant. See, the falsehood can be form of commission, telling an affirmative lie, or omission, suppressing some crucial information or critical fact. Now, from the moment Trump entered the White House, chipmunk-cheeked Shifty Shift has been defrauding the American people with one lie after another. After all, he's the guy who told us he has seen the evidence, and we will be shocked and floored in the Russian hoax, right? He told us this for a long time. It doesn't exist. He lied time after time. Well, Schiff's latest fraudulent act, as part of his role on the Soviet-style show trial that is January 6th committee, was to doctor a text message from Rep. Jim Jordan. You know, Jordan from Ohio. He's the guy that I really hope we see as chairman of the Judiciary Committee. But he doctored a text to Jordan, to Mark Meadows, Trump's chief of staff. Schiff made it appear that Jordan was ordering Pence to refuse to certify the election. This is crazy stuff, folks. However, recently, Sean Davis at the Federalist broke the news about Schiff's intentional fraud against you, the American people. Here's how the fraud worked. Schiff read aloud. Now, before I get into this, do you remember that whole thing he made up about the dialogue between the president of the Ukraine and Trump? And then Trump turned around and released the transcripts. And everything that Schiff said was dramatic and just so full of it and a lie. Because he never thought he was going to get called. He never thought that Trump, and this was his mistake, because if you think you can guess what Trump's going to do or not do, you're just crazy. Shame on you. Because he's done stuff no other president has ever done. And he just assumed that no way was Trump going to, because see, they didn't get this. There's a whole swamp, the whole left. They didn't get Trump on that way because they're very used to ridiculing, attacking, and throwing haymakers at Republicans in the GOP and nothing happening. They're so used to Republicans never swinging back, never fighting back, that they can say whatever they want and it just becomes the truth. Now comes along Trump, who it reminds me of Casino, right? When they're talking about Nicky, the character. You know, you punch him, he's coming back with a bat. You bring a knife, he's coming back with a gun. And you better kill him because he'll come back over. Well, Trump would come back twofold, threefold. So we already, I mean, this guy just lies at will. So in this case, Schiff read aloud from a purported text from Jordan to Meadows. So he's now lying to the American people, saying this is a text that Representative Jim Jordan sent to Meadows, and I'm going to tell you what it says. Additionally, he showed an image on the screen that made it appear as if the following message is the entire communication between Jordan and Meadows. Reading the text shows clearly that Jordan was instructing Meadows to force Pence to refuse to certify the election. Now, something that could be considered as a conspiracy or collusion in connection with the claimed insurrection, which of course we know actually never happened. However, the Federalist investigation discovered that Schiff committed a giant fraud by omission. To understand what he did, think of a sleazy movie ad that includes a quote saying, "This movie is exceptional comedy," when the real quote was, "This movie is an exceptional example of how bad a director and bad a cast can destroy a comedy." So that would be the analogy there. Schiff did the same thing with Jordan's text. He left out a whole bunch of important stuff. What really happened was Jordan received a draft legal brief from a Washington attorney and former Department of Defense Inspector General named Joseph Schmitz. So the Schmitz's 4-page document was a replete with citations to legal authority, including the founders themselves, explaining why there was a relevant case to be made that Pence had constitutional authority to refuse to accept certification from those states that had questionable practices before, during, and after the election. We've talked about this several times. Last-minute changes to the election process and rules without going through the state legislature, where the power to govern elections in states only rests with their legislators, not in the Secretary of State, not with the governor. But all those things I was talking about a little while ago about extending voting days and how it can be done were changed. Now, as Davis writes in the Federalist, by the next day, Schmidt's memo was available online. And Schmidt sent Jordan the memo along with a 3-paragraph text message summarizing the memo's content. So on January 6th, Vice President Mike Pence, as president of the Senate, should call out all electoral votes that he believes are unconstitutional as no electoral votes at all, in accordance with guidance from founding father Alexander Hamilton and judicial precedents here. Quote, "No legislative act," wrote Hamilton in Federalist number 78, contrary to the Constitution can be valid. The court in Hubbard v. Lowe reinforced this truth, that unconstitutional statute is not a law at all and is a proposition no longer open to discussion. Then it quotes where you can find this in the U.S. Code. Following this rationale, the unconstitutionally appointed elector, like an unconstitutionally enacted statute, is no elector at all. See, Jordan in turn forwarded Schmidt's text in memo to Meadows. What Schiff did was to take the first paragraph from the summary, insert a period after the word all, and delete everything after the dash. So what comes out is Vice President Mike Pence, as president of the Senate, should call out all electoral votes that he believes are unconstitutional as no electoral votes at all. Done. The rest of the explanation and reference material he omitted. So that's doctoring the text in order to massage the meaning for your purposes. Schiff also omitted telling the commission and the American people that the sentence had no dishonesty edited wasn't an order that Jordan was issuing to Meadows or Pence, but was in fact part of a longer, thoughtful legal analysis from Schmitz. If you're looking for a perfect example of a fraudulent lie by omission, Schiff's purported lawmaker text to Meadows is it. So in other words, if you want to look this up in the dictionary, this should be the example. And under liars and fraudulent behavior, Schiff's picture should be there. Committing fraud in pursuit of political goal is Schiff's modus operandi, folks. He lied about having seen evidence of the Russian collusion, as I said. He lied about what Trump said to the Ukraine President Zelensky. And now he's lying about Jim Jordan's text. The only people who could ever be deceived at this point by anything Schiff says are willing victims. Are only those willing to put all of your intelligence and common sense on hold and blindly swallow this guy's whatever the hell he's regurgitating. And that perfectly describes the members of the January 6th committee, by the way, each of whom is desperate to destroy President Trump by making the ludicrous claim that a protest got out of hand, almost certainly with help from deep state provocateurs, as we've learned and is being uncovered by the day, got out of hand was an insurrection that struck at the heart of American democracy. Schiff, as his name somehow always reminds us, is a piece of human. Well, you got it. And those on the committee who willingly accept his blatantly fraudulent representations, it's wrong, people. It's wrong. This is his, as I said, modus operandi. He does this over and over again. He lies. He lied about the conversation with Zelensky. He lied about this text. He uses omission. He just makes stuff up. He went on any talk show, and every talk show that would have him to talk about the evidence in the Russian hoax. And it never, ever existed. It could never be shown. He counts on you and I, the American people, not having access to the truth, thinking that we have no other avenues, that nothing's going to come out. And he assumes that the MSM, the mainstream media, is going to always have his back. They're going to cover up the lies. They're going to go along with the lies. They're going to report only in a way, manner, and style in which it furthers their narrative or the lie of the day, folks. So Adam Schiff got busted again. And really, at this point, if you believe anything that man says, if you put any stock in it at all, it's all on you. That's all on you. All right, this is the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Biden just can't stop lying his head off. In a new interview in Ohio, remember he's been going around touting, right, this Build Back Better stuff. Well, this is from Red State, and you can find it on my Facebook page. The Biden team has been trying to blunt the criticism that Joe Biden not doing interviews and not being accessible to the press by having him do some things in very controlled or friendly settings, right? Everything. First of all, he ran an entire campaign from his basement. And we have seen since taking office, Joe Biden in every situation that is as much controlled by the White House or his staff, I should say, as it can be, to the point that they don't even, broadcast from the Oval Office. They built an entire fraudulent studio, right? And a whole nother studio where he does these things for him because they needed to alter, to change, the teleprompters and the camera angles and all of that to aid him. That's why that's going on. So he's always in a very controlled and friendly setting. Well, he's on Fallon last week, right? By TV monitor. We saw him do a very friendly softball session with Fallon. Then he made a few remarks to CBS's Rita Braver, who was doing a longer interview with the wife, with Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden. And that was about as fawning of an interview as you can get. They all are. Right? They all are. They're all fawning all over him. Well, the other day he did a virtual interview with a Channel 7 reporter out in Ohio, John Bedell. Remotely. You can't see any of the teleprompters or any other help that might be offered in the interview, so it's much more controlled situation than a live brief or an in-person interview. And nobody can say that Donald Trump was ever in those situations. Matter of fact, they had no idea when Trump would just take questions. Simple walk from the White House to Marine One could result in 45-minute off-the-cuff remarks and interviews, right? He absolutely went off script, went off prompt all the time. He does these rallies. He'll go 2 hours. And everybody will tell you that's around him, and maybe 30%, 40%, if they're lucky, is coming off the prompter. The rest of it is just Trump being Trump. But unfortunately, again, Biden told some bold-faced lies. He's having a habit of doing this. Biden was asked about inflation and how much that was hurting the American people. Being at a 40-year high and all. We haven't seen inflation like this. Maybe 39, I think 82, right? The producer price index, the PPI, also hit a record surge, almost 10% in November, indicating that inflation is going to continue still even higher. So it's not transitory. It's not a temporary thing that's going away. So this reporter, Bedell, asked a couple of logical questions. He's representing the people of Ohio, after all. What are you going to do about it? And is your proposal spending bill, the Build Back Better bill, going to make things worse? Now, that seems like a fair question. Biden's stock response to that question is now that he's released 50 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. What? How do you even connect that dot? First of all, 50 million barrels is just maybe a little over 2 days of the oil consumption of the country. It's the literal drop in the bucket. And he thinks, and first of all, that's not the purpose of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve at all. That's not what it's there for. And the reason that gas prices are out of control is because of his actions, because of his policies. Day one, closing the Keystone Pipeline, stopping the drilling. Oil, like other futures, are just that. They're bought and they're sold based on the futures, what the traders thinks will happen. So that's what his answer is, this ridiculous release of 50 million barrels, which covers what? Less than 3 days worth on average consumption by America. When he gives that as a response, it's troubling because it's as if the best he can come up with, we're pretty deep in it then. That's not an answer to the issues causing the problem. That's a badly stuck on Band-Aid on a gushing major wound is what that is. It makes no sense whatever. He is not capable of handling anything remotely to a one-on-one interview or a real presser. A Trump-style presser could never handle that. Time after time, we've seen them cut the microphone from the White House, start playing music, getting him off the stage. When he delays or turns around to go back to the podium, you can see the panic through his handlers. All right, we only have a few minutes left. 508-871-7000. Let me jump to the phones. Jim in Worcester's been waiting patiently. Hey, Jim, good morning, sir, and Merry Christmas to you.
You too, buddy. Just a couple issues in regards to this nursing strikes increase.
Yes, can you shed light? Because as I said, Jim, I do not know enough details to have a real good conversation about this. So if you can shed the light on the background of this, I'd love it.
Well, thank God that Marty Walsh intervened and got the nurses back there because they had like 100 beds shut down. It has a lot to do with the sanitation. My wife works in a couple hospitals. She has to go down there. And they had a lot of major issues down there. I wish it didn't go that far. But they're back to work and they're opening up the hospitals. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Hey, can you turn your radio down in the background? Something's on. There you go. Thanks.
I'm sorry. In regards to what's going on with the elections and all that with Jordan, not only did there was a bunch of them. I don't understand why Ingram's and Hannity. I didn't vote for Hannity, but I guess he has a lot to say with the president of the United States and how the country's run. But, you got these people who are running today who want to overturn the electoral process. And I don't know where we want to go with that, Joe. It's a dangerous situation, but I just hope we get our act together before the next one votes because it's scary out there on both sides of the aisle, Joe.
It is scary on both sides of the aisle because you've got people who run as Republicans, get there, and they fall right in line with just how things are done, right? And these neophytes that get into politics, Jim, and they get down to Washington, and they think they're going to burn things up. And what happens? The first thing they do is they sat down at a table in a phone, and they said, well, you 3 hours a day, you're on the phone raising money for your next election. Don't you know that? And they're like, what are you talking about? I just got here. Nope, this is how it works. Oh, and by the way, you're going to go along with the leader of your party. I don't care if it's Republican, Democrat, whatever. This is the way we vote. You vote that way.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Well, that doesn't work for my district. Who said anything about your people? We don't really care about that. This is how you vote. And they find out just how little power they have, Jim.
I hear you.
And that's what happens.
If I don't hear from you, have a nice holiday.
Thank you.
Everybody. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Great call. And thanks for the information in St. Vincent's. I'm very happy. Again, I didn't know all the details. I'm not going to pretend I did, but I'm happy that it's over because anytime any hospital is on strike, it's just not good, right? Anything that's going to jeopardize the health and safety of people, not good. But this is going to wrap up the last Saturday edition before Christmas, and it could be the year because if we're not here on January 1st. I got a message here that the 12 days of Christmas today would be worth $41,205.58. And I'll be honest with you, that sounds low. Did you give me that? Was that on there, or did you send me that?
I sent it
Okay.
because while we were in commercial break, I thought I'd do a tiny bit of research.
Okay.
And I went to pnc.com. That's where I got my information from. And they do a breakdown on each of the day's gifts. So I guess if there was any changes in each of the day's gifts, it would state so. But at the beginning, that's where it showed $41,205.58.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of money, folks. It just seems it'd be low because when you, and what does that calculate, right? Are you putting the maids and the leaping lords and the dancing whatever and the drummers in the hotel room for 12 days? Where are they getting? Are you paying them union rates? Are you only paying them when they're dancing or drumming, or do you pay them for the whole day? I don't know. But anyway, folks, if I don't talk to you again before Christmas, Merry Christmas. I hope Santa's fantastic to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Again, I'm out tomorrow morning. Mike Wade in at 6 o'clock, but I'll be back Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock. This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Dropbox Mattress, Middlesex Mattress Studios. Hey, Joe out.